Hello YouTube, 24 Tributor here, and I will be profiling my Merchant Chaos deck list today. Alright, first card in the deck is Blackluster Soldier. You gotta play it. It's Chaos, it's standard. Then as the namesake of the deck, 3 Magical Merchant. They mill stuff, and they help me search through for my 10 spells that I main. Because despite it being just milling a lot, the spells really help. Then I have 3 Nova Summoner. They act as a floater. They can search each other. And they can also search the 3-dimensional Alchemist. Now, the D-Alchs are here for banishing off the top to gain 500 attack. And when they're sent to the graveyard from being destroyed and sent to the graveyard, I get my banished stuff back. Excuse me. And they're really helpful in recycling things like BLS and Battle Fader and stuff like that. Next I play 3 Effect Veiler, because you gotta negate monster effects. These really help against stuff like other BLSs and sorts, and like Dino Rabbit, Windups, even though I never really play either of them. Next up, 2 Raikos for destruction and milling, and they're also great with Junk Synchron to help synchro plays go through. That's the light half. In the dark half, Chaos Sorcerer, secondary Chaos Monster, then 3 Chaos Necromancer. I use this because it's a dark target, and then it gains, as a secondary use, I use it for an attacker, because it gains 300 attack for every monster in your graveyard. If you have, I don't know, 6 or 7, you got a pretty good monster for level 1. Because that's already 2100 with just 7 monsters. It also is really good with Effect Veiler to make Formula Synchron and draw a card. And then it has a light and a dark setup. So, Necromancer is good. And when you're using Armageddon Knight, Chaos Necromancer is always the first choice. Because it's the least useful monster in the deck in terms of how well it is as a shield / sword. And I feel it's the easiest one to sacrifice. Next I play Ambitious Gopher. I use this to target up to 2 of my opponent's monsters and pop them unless they reveal a monster in their hand. This effect is unnegatable by Stardust Dragon because Stardust can only negate guaranteed destructions, and Ambitious Gopher is a non-guaranteed destruction. Tongue-tied today. Armageddon Knight sets up my dark plays with Chaos Necromancer and rarely something else. But I usually have a Necromancer in the deck for Armageddon Knight to work. Next up is Archfiend of Gilfer, aka Beast of Gilfer. When it's sent to the grave, my opponent's monster gets equipped with it and loses 500 attack. Because I will usually target an opponent's monster. Unless I have Scrap Dragon out, because then Scrap gets a free pop. And since it's optional, I don't have to keep equipping it to Scrap Dragon or anything. And it's a 25 wall, so tribute a monster, set Gilfer, and then, yeah, they attack into it, and then they lose life points, because they don't expect something that high a defense. Then I got Triple Fader, great on the defensive, dark if they get milled, and then they come back with Elk. Then I play 2 Tour Guides. I usually go one for the other, unless one of them gets milled. Then I'll go Sangan. I don't really, like going into Sangan with Tour Guides, because if I have to exceed someone with Sangan, I don't get its effect. because these materials aren't on the field. Next up is Junk Synchron. I used to be using this card, Phantom Lord Hydride, but since it doesn't exist in the TCG, I play Junk Synchron because I would love to have Phantom Lord Hydride come out in the TCG because it's a great monster in that it can be used as a non-tuner. This plus Veiler sets up BLS Armory Arm because that makes 4, and then BLS has the light and the dark. And lastly is Gorz. Gorz usually gets milled with this deck, but it all depends on how the deck wants to go. Alright, then on to the spells. I have standard Book of Moon, Dark Hole, Heavy Storm, Foolish Burial, Monster Reborn, and Mind Control. Next is Pot of Avarice. Not many people play Avarice because it's a Chaos deck, and you wouldn't necessarily expect it to happen. But this deck mills quite a bit, and the Avarice play will really help you. Excuse me. And then finally you got 3 copies of the Warrior Returning Alive to get back BLS, or if you need it, Armageddon Knight to set up another Dark, plus give you another monster to play. Alright, that's the main deck. 40 cards. Onto the side, Hydride, like I said, I need this to come out in the TCG. Then I play 2 Birdman. They bounce things. And you can go Tour Guide into Sangam, bounce for Birdman, and then you have a 6-star, and then later a Sangam Search. And then Thunder King gets around a lot of stuff. You get special summons, the 19 beater. Doom Caliber Knight, also a 19 beater, and negates effect monster effects. Then Electric Virus gets around Machinas, Geargias, Chaos Dragons, 2 Cyber Dragon to contact with the Machinas and Geargias into Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon, which then becomes a big beater. The good thing about your Fortress Dragon is it can't be used as a material for your opponents. And then lastly, in the side I play 3 MSTs for the back row hate. Onto the extra deck, 1 Catastor. Catastor is really, really good, especially in Chaos, because it sets up a ton of plays. Plus it's a dark, and it gets over a lot of dark stuff, non-dark stuff. Then Ancient Fairy Dragon, usually used as a wall, but you can use it to special summon something else, or pop a field spell and gain a grand. And you don't have to add a field spell. That's a good thing. Then Armory Arm to go with the BLS. Black Rose, usually I don't pop or explode all over everything, but it sometimes happens. That was a really bad choice of words. Formula Synchron to draw 1, and then Synchro during my opponent's turn. Gaia Knight gets over 25s like Stardust and stuff like that. Iron Chain Mills, great against everything except Light Swarms. Scrap Dragon to pop stuff, great, like I said, with Gilfer. And then Stardust to negate destruction effects. Onto the Xyz monsters. Chronomaly Crystal Chrononaut. It's a light, and once per turn, if it's an attack target, you detach a material and your opponent takes the damage, and you have a monster for next turn. 2100 attack, that's not too bad, but it could have been better. Leviair, I usually win when I summon this. By usually, I mean always. If I make Leviair, it's GG, I win. Zen mains for the wall and destruction. Utopia negates attacks. Pappy gets over walls. And Maestro sets monsters. Alright, that's my Merchant Chaos deck. Thank you for watching.